Hi, my name's Nick Harris, and today I'm excited to show you how you can use Windows Azure Mobile Services to create a powerful turnkey backend solution for your Windows Phone applications. So to do that, we need to get started in the Windows Azure Management Portal. So I'm in the Windows Azure Management Portal here, and you'll see on the left I have this option called Mobile Services. And to create a new mobile service, it's quite straightforward. I come over here, I click New, Compute, Mobile Service, Create. And now we define a unique subdomain for this mobile service. This is the endpoint with which your Windows Phone client will connect to communicate with your mobile service to do things such as perhaps inserting, updating, reading, and deleting your data. So let's give it a unique name. We'll call it NickHar Test. We'll create a new database instance, and I'm going to have this located in the East US region. We'll hit Next, and we'll use NickHar Test DB, and I'm going to use an existing server which I have located in the East US for that database. Hit Save and go, and with that, we're now creating our mobile service. Now, mobile services provide a number of features to your device applications. The first one is the ability to utilize structured storage. So this allows you to push data up and retrieve that data from your mobile service. So it provides all the common CRUD functionality. On top of that, we also provide the ability for you to write server-side script. And server-side script allows you to essentially write your own custom business logic on the server side. Further, we provide, in the case of Windows Phone, a very easy API for sending push notifications using the Microsoft Push Notification Service, otherwise known as MPNS. And lastly, we provide the capability for you to go and write scheduled jobs, which will execute script that runs on a periodic interval. So let's go see how we can create our first Windows Phone application that uses this. I'm going to click into NickHar Test now, and you'll see we're presented with the Quick Start. Now, the Quick Start allows us to download a sample application across any of the device platforms that we support. And you'll note today we already support Windows Store, Windows Phone, iOS, Android, and HTML clients. So we're going to choose Windows Phone. We've got two quick starts here. One to connect an existing application, which is something that you'd use if you've already got an app pre-built. We're going to download a quick start, which is essentially a quick pre-packaged mobile service client app that will talk to this particular mobile service. I've already gone off and installed Visual Studio and the Mobile Services Client SDK. The next step that we need to do here is to create a to-do item table. So this sample application is a to-do list, and we need somewhere to store our items, and we're going to store those items in a to-do item table. And the last thing that we need to do here is essentially download our sample application here. So I'm clicking download, and I'll just save this locally to my dev folder. Okay, now we'll open this, we'll extract it, and we'll open it. So before we get started here, I just want to point out one thing. When we click this Create To-Do Table, it's actually come over here to our Data tab and created us a table. Now you can create these easily yourself, say My Table, and just hit Go. So it's essentially performed that simple operation. But what I'd like to point out is if I drill into this to-do item table, you'll see that there's no columns apart from an ID. Now the ID is your unique identifier or primary key for the columns of your table, or rows I should say. And what we're going to do is we're going to see how mobile services will actually go off and scaffold your columns, as well as deal with serializing and storing your data within your mobile service. So with that, let's spin up the client application. So our client app now is ready to go. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to minimize Visual Studio, and I'm going to dock the portal over here. So we can actually see some of the data that's being inserted here. So let's look at the client. It's a simple to-do list. So it's providing us functionality like performing an insert operation. So let's say today we're going to talk about some of the key features that mobile services provides. So data, auth, push, and scheduled scripts, or the scheduler. So each time I'm performing a save here, that's actually performing an insert. Let's hit refresh in the portal and have a look at that. So you'll see now that we've got our data that we've just inserted from our client. We've got data auth push scheduler. Now you'll also note that it's gone off and already added the columns that we require to save these items. So that's insert, and dynamic schematization is what we call the process by which we determine what columns should be added to your SQL DB. So that's an insert operation. Let's perform a query. So this refresh button is performing a query and pulling down our data, and we can also perform updates. And again, you can see that now if we refresh over here, that first data item, since we've just shown data, is now set to complete true. Returning back to the solution here, you can see there's a number of key things that this quick start has done for us. The first thing is to add a reference to the Windows Azure Mobile Services client. So you can see that's added there. I'm going to show you where you can find that if you're building a greenfield application. So if I click into Windows Phone Extensions, you can see there's our client for mobile services. So that's part one. Part two of connecting your application requires an instance of the mobile services client that points at your mobile services endpoint with your application key for that mobile service. So you'll see here we create a new instance of that. There's my Nickar test endpoint, and here's my application key. So if you're, again, doing a greenfield application, you can grab those credentials from here. There you go, right there. And you can copy that and drop that into your solution. So what about the CRUD operations we're performing, the inserts, the updates, and the reads? Well, we've spent a lot of time in making the API for developers extremely straightforward and easy to consume. So the first thing that we had here was a to-do item. Now this to-do item has our column names that we require for our to-do item, which is basically a property text and a property called complete, and of course the essential ID, which is used as the primary key. So once we've defined our entity that's going to be serialized over the wire, we then need to get a handle or a reference to the to-do item table. Now to do that, we simply now call into app.mobileservice, so that's the instance that we just created back here, and we say get table, and we use this generic method and essentially provide to-do item. So if you had a different class name, you'd essentially put that in there. But now we've got a handle to the to-do table. So the next thing that we need to do is to perform an insert. It now becomes very simple. We call to-do table, insert async, and we pass in the to-do item. So one line of code to perform your insert. To perform a query, to-do table, in this case we say where, and we provide a link expression in this case to say send me everything where complete is false. And then we use toCollectionView such that we can easily bind it to our UI. But again, a where or a query is simple, in this case one line with a link expression. Update, again, one line of code. Delete, if you so wish to use that, again, one line of code. So with that, that's the simple CRUD API which we provide to your clients. The mobile services client does provide other APIs such as login. So you can say app.mobileservice.loginasync. So if you're interested in that, please watch to the end and you'll see where you can find some tutorials about how to do the auth operations from your mobile service. So that's CRUD operations done. So let's go back to the portal and have a quick look at some of the other functionality that's available to you. So we've looked at data and we've created a to-do item table. Very importantly, many people want to go and restrict permissions on their tables that are created behind their web tier. Say for instance, you may not want everyone to have access to that. You may want to restrict it to perhaps only authenticated users rather than users that have the application key. You can control that at the granular level of each CRUD operation here. So you can see here if I wanted to change my insert operation to require only authenticated users or scripts and admins, I can do that as so. If you wanted everyone to be able to read your data, so if you want it just publicly visible, you can select everyone and hit save. And with that, your table is now locked down on insert, and as far as read's concerned, anyone can read that data. So you may be asking, how do I actually go off now and authenticate a user? Well, Mobile Services provides an easy means by which you can configure the credentials required for a number of popular social identity providers. The first one being Microsoft account, Facebook, Twitter, and Google. So again, I'll show you where you can get access to information of how you can do each of these. It's not in the scope of this quick start video, but it's certainly very easy to do and something well worth looking at. So apart from identity, we also provide push functionality. So if you want to go and configure push notifications for your Windows apps, your iOS apps, or your Google Cloud Messaging apps, you can certainly do that. As far as Microsoft Push Notification Service for Windows Phone is concerned, you don't need to provide any credentials for that. You can immediately go and start writing push notifications using ServerScript there. And the last key thing I'd like to point out here is the scheduler functionality. The scheduler allows you to execute jobs on a periodic interval. So if I wanted to create a job, I could actually have that job running every 15 minutes, 30 minutes, every 120 minutes, or I can go and set it to an hourly, daily, or monthly schedule. The last thing to show here would be scale. So your mobile service is scalable. We're actually running in the free mode today, but if we wanted to go to reserved, we need to click through this spending limit warning. And what we can do now is hit save. And in doing that, we're going from essentially a shared core to a reserved core, and that's actually occurred in about 3 seconds flat. If we wanted to scale out that web tier across multiple cores, we can simply do that by dragging the slider, hitting OK, and now this is going to go out and provision six instances with my mobile service in seconds, and now that's ready to be consumed. So let's have a look at where you can find some more information around how you can use identity push and the scheduler functionality. So if I return to windowsazure.com, we can simply click in on documentation, and we can select the Developer Center for mobile. Within there, we've got a number of tutorials and resources across data, users, or auth, push, and third-party services that we support. There's reference documentation, forums if you have questions, samples, and a number of downloads. If I click into the tutorials and resources, you'll see here that you can go off and do, in the case of Windows Phone, select Windows Phone, and you can go off and do tutorials relating to data, auth, push, and services. So I hope you find this brief video tutorial interesting, and it should hopefully help you get started building Windows Phone applications using Windows Azure Mobile Services. My name's Nick Harris. You can reach out to me on CloudNick if you have any questions. Thank you for watching.